Mercy, love your enemies. Surely you remember the gospel according to St. Luke, Luke 6:27 to 38, where Jesus taught us to love our enemies and do good to those who hate us, bless those who curse us, and pray for those who mistreat us. Lend without expecting anything in return. Lending without expecting repayment, this is so hard to understand. How can one lend without expecting to get it back? Lending means you have to get it back, right? Actually, in the past, the Jewish people lived in villages, and most of the people in the village were relatives. Therefore, when Jesus came to Nazareth and preached in the synagogue, people said, "Isn't this Jesus, the son of Joseph, the carpenter, and his brothers and sisters are among us?" This meant they were Jesus' relatives. So when talking about lending, people thought of it as a duty to help. For example, Jesus once mentioned the parable of a man going to their friend's house to borrow bread to serve a guest. What does this mean? Usually they borrowed food, borrowed provisions, or borrowed something to get through the day. Or they borrowed in the manner of kings and rulers, where they served their masters and borrowed crops or debts to sustain themselves. So the person who lends is not lending to make a profit, but lending in the way of a relative, a close friend, or someone with power and abundance who can help support their servant. However, if we are talking about lending for gambling or borrowing money for betting, I don't think Jesus encourages us to do that. Don't be foolish and follow that path, because Jesus didn't say we should do that. Love your enemies. Who are our enemies? If we go out on the street and meet a stranger who suddenly hits us, or if we are sitting in our car at a red light and someone crashes into us, would we seek revenge? I think not. I think not. And I believe 99.9% of us would understand that we wouldn't do anything in retaliation. Or, when helping mentally ill patients, we bathe and cut their hair. But while we're helping, they suddenly turn around and slap us hard. What should we do? Would we hit them back? Of course not. We continue helping them because we understand they have a mental condition. I am certain that we wouldn't seek revenge. And I believe all of us would act the same way. Who were the enemies in the context of the Jews in the time of Jesus? The first group of enemies were those who opposed Jesus and his laws. The Jews considered them enemies and stoned them to death. The second group of enemies were other nations that wanted to conquer them. This mindset still persists among the people of Israel today. When other nations try to take their land, they push them out and seek to eliminate them. The third group, which is closer to us, is when our friends or loved ones become our enemies. These are the people we once trusted and cared for, but who later turn against us. As you all know, King David, before he became king, helped King Saul defeat the Philistines and win the battle. Saul was on the brink of losing, but he triumphed thanks to David's help. David was loyal to King Saul, regarded him as a father figure, and fought alongside him as a close friend. However, when King Saul saw that David was loved and praised by everyone, jealousy grew within him. He sent soldiers to pursue and kill David. In other words, David, who was Saul's friend, ended up being chased and hunted by his own friend. God created an opportunity for David. One night David stood right by Saul's tent while Saul was sleeping, unaware. Saul's spear was placed next to him. Even David's companion suggested, "Let me take this dagger and strike him once in the head and end this conflict." But David, with wisdom, replied, "I cannot kill him. Even though he wrongs me, he is still a child of God." David chose to walk away. Jesus is the benefactor for everyone. When he lived in his homeland of Palestine, he preached the good news, healed countless people of their illnesses, comforted and uplifted many souls. He was a benefactor to all. However, the leaders at that time felt irritated and uneasy because their influence over the people was diminishing, while Jesus' influence continued to grow. Therefore, they sought every possible way to destroy him. They even resorted to the darkest schemes, using the authority of Governor Pilate to bring Jesus to trial, torture him brutally, force him to carry the cross to Calvary, and then crucify him. In the past, David was pursued by King Saul but was never captured or killed. In contrast, Jesus was arrested, beaten, and crucified. As he hung on the cross, people might have expected him to utter the most bitter curses against those who tormented and killed him. Yet no one could have imagined that, in the midst of his deepest suffering, Jesus would pray, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." Martin Luther King was a pastor who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. When reflecting on this scene and the prayer of Jesus on the cross, he uttered a remarkable statement. The most beautiful moment in a person's life is the most beautiful moment in the life of Christ. Because in such an extreme moment of suffering, he still uttered a prayer, asking God the Father to forgive those who had harmed him. If martyrdom simply meant having the courage to die for an ideal, then every nation has people willing to sacrifice their lives for their country. Even certain ideologies have individuals who die to defend their beliefs. So what distinguishes Christian martyrs? It is that they accept death without resentment. They accept death while still forgiving those who kill them. That is the defining characteristic of Christian martyrs. Therefore, read the Bible again. After Jesus, Saint Stephen, the first martyr, acted in the same way as Jesus. And all the martyrs in the history of the church have done the same. They were killed, yet they bore no hatred in their hearts. Instead, they forgave all. I am not here to tell you that we must forgive those who try to kill us today. Surely no one is trying to kill us. But I simply want to suggest that in our daily lives, there are people who sometimes make us upset, annoyed, or in some way cause us pain. Maybe not physically, but perhaps emotionally, and often even more deeply. And honestly, many times, the people who hurt us the most are those closest to us, our own family members, husbands and wives, parents and children, siblings, causing trouble and pain for one another. The first reason we should forgive is because we ourselves have been forgiven by God. Is there any Catholic who does not know the Our Father prayer? Every time we pray it, we say to God, "Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us." We ourselves have received God's forgiveness. The second reason is that it's not only God who forgives us, people around us also forgive us. There may have been times when, through our words, actions, or behavior, whether intentionally or unintentionally, we have caused pain to others. They may have forgiven us, but they never said anything, so we never realized it. So, if we have been forgiven by God and by those around us, then each of us must also remember to forgive others. Let us live out the teachings of Jesus, not in great, extraordinary ways, but in the simple ways we treat one another daily through love and forgiveness. By doing so, we will become like our Heavenly Father, who is merciful, just as Jesus teaches us today. Be merciful, just as your Father in heaven is merciful. We may easily forgive a stranger who wrongs us or harms us. But when someone close to us, someone we have trusted, loved, sacrificed for, helped, and invested in, turns against us, that's when the betrayal truly hurts. And often we can forgive once, twice, 3 times, 5 times. But eventually we begin to see them as an enemy. Sometimes it's not even about them taking something from us, but about them using us to hurt us. Often our pain and resentment stem from this, not from strangers harming us, right? So what does Jesus want to teach us? Jesus teaches us, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. This is not merely a theoretical lesson, but something that he himself lived out before us. The disciples of Jesus, throughout the history of the church, have always strived to live according to this spirit. Brothers and sisters, remember the martyrs, the saints who gave their lives for their faith. Jesus also suffers, dear friends. You know, when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, Judas, his disciple, betrayed him with a kiss and brought soldiers to arrest him. Jesus said, I was with you daily in the temple, and you didn't seize me. Why are you treating me like this? And even after the kiss, Jesus said to Judas, Judas, do you betray the Son of Man with a kiss? Jesus himself was astonished by the betrayal of his disciple. So, why does Jesus tell us to love our enemies? It's because there is no better way to overcome vengeance than by loving those who harm us. If we chase after someone with a knife because they hurt us, or seek to harm them in return, or humiliate them because they humiliated us, what do we become in the end? We become a product of their actions, a product of the evil they inflicted upon us. Jesus doesn't want us to be transformed into someone who, because of others' wickedness or weaknesses, becomes just as cruel. Do we want to become someone who deceives others because others deceived us? Surely the answer is no. Why do we seek revenge? We think it's the way to get justice. But that's not true justice. Revenge doesn't heal our wounds. It makes us bear those wounds twice. First, the harm they cause us, and second, the pain of living with it until we hurt others in return, only to realize that it doesn't heal. So what does Jesus want to teach us? Jesus wants us to be children of God. Stop, my child. Do not seek revenge. Jesus calls us to see ourselves as children of God, more important than the evil others have done to us. In other words, kindness and love are always better. Kindness and love are the essence of who we truly are, because we are made in God's image. And if kindness and love are better, why not choose them instead of becoming the person we know we don't want to be? There was a woman abandoned by her husband, betrayed, who took all her money. She harbored bitterness and poured all her resentment onto her child. When someone asked, do you want your child to be a victim of this? Do you want to continue being a victim of this? She suddenly woke up and realized that she couldn't direct all her bitterness towards her child. Perhaps this was the moment when she had to remind herself that she deserves to be loved by someone who truly loves her, not to find someone who betrayed her to prove that they were wrong. Is there anyone in this world who gives without expecting anything in return? Yes, many. Parents, grandparents. We all understand that everything we invest in our children, sweat, tears, and effort, and we know for sure that we will never get anything back from them. Often we don't even remember it. If we think that we will get something back from all that we have given to the lives of our children, wealth might make up for part of it, but love and effort cannot be repaid, don't you think? Has anyone ever been willing to give up their coat, their clothes, to keep a naked person warm? Yes, many have, even for our own family members, our loved ones. Sometimes when we look at things from the outside, we might think that Jesus' words are too difficult because we think he is demanding something from us. But in truth, Jesus' words are the true wisdom of life. Even Jesus tells us, if someone takes your things, don't take them back. In the United States, in many stores, signs say, if someone robs you, let them take it. You're not allowed to stop them. If you do, you will be fined. The reason for this is explained because your life is more valuable than the money someone steals. We don't want you to lose your life just for money because we cannot replace your life. Therefore, if you stop someone from stealing, you may risk your life. Just let them take it because it is the police's job to catch the thief. Your life is more important. And from this, we can understand that we should not provoke, not seek revenge, because our happiness, being loving, forgiving, and merciful is more important. Being a child of God is more important than being a child of evil. Now let us reflect on our own lives and ask, who am I a product of? Am I making myself a victim of the weaknesses of others who have shaped me this way? Am I willing to allow God to continue transforming me, to train me to be kinder, more forgiving, and more loving? And am I my own enemy? If I am my own enemy, then Jesus is telling me, love even yourself.